Our final speaker in this segment of the presentations is Todd Miller, who is the Maintenance Liaison Engineer with the Missouri Department of Transportation. Todd currently reports to the Missouri Department of Transportation's Maintenance Engineer and has a functional responsibility of managing pavement preservation statewide. Todd has previously served as a resident engineer, innovations engineer, and statewide program manager for the Missouri DOT. He has also worked as a consultant and traffic engineer in the Tampa Bay area of Florida. Todd lives at Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri with his wife Amy and 3 daughters, Madeira, Maya, and Estelle. Todd will describe how the Show Me State got its citizens out of the mud and built a thriving transportation network that is the result of good stewardship, sound investment strategies, including the use of pavement preservation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the intro. You might be wondering, why is Todd Miller here? He's with the state agency. Well, what I'm going to talk about is how MoDOT is kind of unique from some other state agencies, from a lot of other state agencies. I'm going to talk about how we got to be unique like that. And then I'll kind of talk about what we do as an agency as far as preserving our pavements and some of the tools that we have in the toolbox, and kind of what our budget is to handle this stuff. You know, what's interesting, MoDOT, you know, we got started like most state agencies. 1913 is when we first got started. 1920, we actually got a gas tax passed of some kind. But anyway, we had an initiative called Get Missouri Out of the Mud. And it actually took place in 2 steps. One was in 1920 and another one was in 1952, where we basically took on, especially in 1952, we took on 12,000 miles of roadway to get every house in Missouri within a mile of a paved road. So our system now is 33,000 miles of roads. We took on 12,000 miles of county roads. So we are a lot like a county road system in a lot of ways. We call ourselves, MoDOT is Main Street, Missouri. Those routes that go through right the middle of the town, go through the town square, are multiple routes that go through the town square. Those are MoDOT routes. Continue on, again, 1950, we got Missouri out of the mud. That vehicle there is one of our early stripers that we had, a little narrow vehicle there. But I want to, you know, we can talk about it. I can tell you, you know, 33,000 is what we are now. We took on 12,000. But I thought, you know what, I want to kind of show you guys, what are we talking about here? So I thought, looking at the state as a whole is a little bit hard to do. So I thought, let's kind of zoom in on my hometown and take a look at it. This is my hometown. It's Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. We have maps online at MoDOT dating all the way back to 1926, I believe, almost every year. This year is 1932. I grew up on a lake called Lake of the Ozarks. It was the dam that built Lake of the Ozarks was built in 1931. I like this map because the lake is partially being filled at that point, so you see a little bit of a lake there. But as you can see, there's the state network in 1932 is pretty much a skeleton network, kind of like what you see in a lot of states today, is really just your numbered routes. So let's advance a little further. There, the lake finally filled in. This is 1936. We picked up a couple of routes as a state agency. But still, it's just your typical arterial system that most states own out there. So that's 1936. So now let's go ahead and jump ahead to today. Here we have Lake of the Ozarks today. You can see it's a very dendritic system. There's a lot of lettered routes, a lot of collector routes that we have. Some of these routes a lot of these routes just in my hometown carry less than 100 cars a day. So we have a very large portion of the collector system in Missouri. You know, one thing that's interesting is I grew up in Missouri and I lived in Florida for 8 years, but you grow up and what is normal to you is normal to you. You don't know any different, but I grew up with lettered routes and double lettered routes, HH, JJ, Route A. It wasn't until I went to Florida where someone made a comment. They said, you're from that state that has all those lettered routes. That's kind of odd. And I remember other people in the room agreed to it. So I guess that was kind of odd. But again, one reason why we're here is we are, again, Main Street, Missouri. We act in some ways a lot like some of the local agencies do. And we take care of these collector roads in various ways. And we'll go ahead and kind of dive into that. Okay, that just kind of breaks down our whole system. That's pretty busy there, but over 33,000 centerline miles. We break our system down into major and minor routes. That breakdown is from the functional classification. If it's a principal arterial or higher, in the functional classification, it's a major route. If it's less than that with the functional classification, then it's considered a minor route. So that goes all the way down through collector and local roads. That is in our minor route system. Now, me as a liaison engineer, most of my focus is on our minor route system. The Transportation Improvement Program, the STIP, it handles our major route system, but what I deal with is essentially the 28,000 miles that is our minor road system on here. Okay, how do we do that? Well, first of all, we do a lot of work in-house. Our budget with MoDOT maintenance is a little over $400 million annually. Now, some of the biggest expenditures we have are snow fight. And really the biggest threat that we have, and it's a two-pronged threat, the biggest threat that we have as far as pavement preservation is our winter operations. Our winter operations varies from last year, it was about $26 million, I believe. A couple of years prior to that, it was $88 million. On average, it's just north of about $50 million on average a year. But that $50 million swing is really our biggest threat to pavement preservation for two things. Number one, it's our budget. You know, $400 million is our budget. Whether we spend $88 million on winter operations or whether we spend $26 million on winter operations, that's still our budget. We don't get extra money if we have to fight snow. So it impacts our pavement preservation from a budget standpoint. And obviously from the physical standpoint, the winters that we have to heavily engage in the snow fight is just that much tougher on our roadway surfaces out there. So, but anyway, we in-house, we can do a 1-inch overlay from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. And then in-house, we seal a lane from D.C. back to Los Angeles. That's what we do in-house. Now, in addition to that, we contract out a lot of services as well. But we do maintain a strong in-house force. And really, what drives that force is really the winter operations. We staff up for the winter operations. We have so many trucks. We have so many loaders. It's for winter operations. That's our number one customer service tool that we have out there. And then in the summertime, we use those same trucks, those same loaders, and those same maintenance lots to perform pavement preservation and to fix our roads. As you can see, this is I believe the 2016 pavement plan that we had in place this season. You'll notice in the urban areas, kind of the east central and the west central, Kansas City and St. Louis, you'll notice there isn't a whole lot in our pavement plan in-house. That's because those are almost all major roads in those areas, and those are handled by our statewide transportation improvement program. So really our maintenance in those areas, they really support the transportation improvement program projects. It's really the rural parts of Missouri where our in-house staff does a lot of work to help preserve our roads. Okay, as far as the tools go, MoDOT doesn't have your typical pavement management system where it's a system and it tells you, okay, in 2017 you need to do these routes, and in 2018 you need to do these routes based on the last time that route was had anything done to it and the condition of the route. We don't have a system like that. We do have a very, very robust system of information that's very easily accessible. It's all at your fingertips. The common term for it is it's our transportation management system. It's a browser-based system. It's map-based. The core of it is our linear referencing system, our LRS. But that system supports our pavement management that we do. And essentially, again, our pavement management system doesn't decide for us. It just gives us all the information at our fingertips so we can see it and we can understand what's out there and what we need to do. So the human aspect of it is there. It's just the information is at our fingertips. Here's just a little screenshot of some condition of our pavements on the pavement management system. Here's just some tabular format of some information on there and some projects that we have on our system. Now, in addition to this, the linear reference system allows us to bring this information into a GIS environment. I believe on this sheet right here, I have in red, I have our pavements that are not good. It's a little bit wider band. And in blue, I have our 2016 proposed chip seal operations. You'll notice, I think it's Route M, you'll notice that there's a blue stretch, a blue project, which is a chip seal operation, and it's entirely bound by red. The entire stretch is considered bad pavement. To me, that's good money going after bad. That's something that we have to have a discussion with the districts on and talk to them about why are we chip sealing a route that is already considered bad. So we use this information to review the plans that the districts develop, and we use this information to do some quality assurance and quality control and make sure that we are making the right decisions out there. We have a ARAN that travels the entire system every year with very few exceptions. If you've got construction going on, it used to do the major routes every year and minor routes every other year. We got a second ARAN van on board, so now we do our entire system every year with a few exceptions. This is a screenshot of that route that was considered bad, the entire stretch of it. We had a chip seal planned on it, so I can take a look at it through the ARAN, kind of see what the condition is of that route. That is my house on the left there. It's a little bit of a fixer-upper. No, that's not my house. But anyway, we can see, we get a visual, we can see what the condition of the route is. Our condition, or the metrics for our condition are what we consider good versus not good. Our metrics are IRI, International Roughness Index, and a PASER rating 0 to 10, which that PASER rating, we have a gentleman who's been with the department, he's been doing this for 20 years now. He looks at every one of these pictures throughout our entire system. Essentially, there's about 430,000 of these across our entire system. Looks at every one of them, gives them a PASER rating 0 to 10. Has been doing that for 20 years now. So Gene Nichols. He sits in front of a TV all day long. But anyway, he applies it. One interesting thing about this is when he looks at this, we did add a component to it where if he is more than 1 point off from what he rated it last year, it stops him and makes him question what's going on, what happened to this route. And it'll bring up last year's picture just to see what might be going on, to see why we had a 2 point either reduction or possibly increase. Obviously an increase, a new overlay will cause that. But anyway, so there's our ARAN view. We can see every part of our system. We can have all the information up there, again, at our fingertips, and make a determination as to why we want to chip seal this project. That's just an IRI graph that we have on it. And one thing, if you see some really big spikes every now and then on the IRI graph, that's something that can get ironed out by our staff, and then we can go ahead and seal over the top of it. With this, it's got a whole grouping of spikes on it. But when I first hired my secretary and brought her on board, I got this same graph up in Cole County and showed it to her and showed her at the log mile where there's some spikes and we're getting ready to overlay a route. But I said, at log mile 1.8, there's a spike there, and we need to fix that before we do a chip seal. So we pulled off the highway on the route and we reset our odometer. And I said, when we get to 1.8 on this odometer, there better be some asphalt pavement repair ironing this out. And sure enough, we got to 1.8, nice black asphalt pavement repair, ironed out the issue that was out there, and that route was ready to go for a chip seal. So again, quality assurance, and these are the tools that are out there to help us determine what we need to look at from a central office perspective. This is an 11-year trend of the condition of our minor roads. It's for all our 7 districts that we have out there. I came over to maintenance in 2011. I do like the idea that we're seeing an upward trend. Most likely a lot of that is from having several mild winters in the last 3 winters. We did have one rough one, but we have had several mild winters that have helped us out a lot. But our main performance measure is percent good versus percent not good. That's not really, I like this measure. It is a measure that is very much a lagging indicator, because this is information from the ARAN that was run in 2015. Very much a lagging indicator, not a leading indicator. When I bemoan this measure, I say, what if you sent your child to school and the administrators at the school said, you know what, we're not going to do a quarter grade or a period grade or a semester grade. Just next summer, we'll tell you what your kid's grade is. I don't know if that'd be acceptable to you. It definitely wouldn't be acceptable to me. And that's essentially what we're doing with this. At the end of the year, at the end of the season, the ARAN runs it, and boom, there you are. 83% good, or 72% good. Very much a lagging indicator. We did do a study with our 2 of our universities in Missouri, and we did come up with essentially an average of how long various applications, how long they last before they cross the threshold and not good. So essentially get their service life for all these applications, and we're working on applying that service life to all of our information that's out there to come up with a remaining service life measure in addition to this as well, to have more of a leading indicator, and also to essentially give more of an immediate credit to pavement preservation that occurs. Okay, this is just our in-house. When I talked about snow removal, and I said it swings from 26 million to 86 million, I believe this is it's hard to read from this angle, but that's our asphalt pavement repair. That's our next big hitter. It comes in around $40 million annually throughout the state. Then we've got our chip seal that we do. That comes in, between $12 to $20 million annually in-house. Again, we also do this contracted as well. That's just patching roads. That's different than our asphalt pavement repair. That's not planned. That's just March coming out of winter. We go out, we patch the roads. Do about anywhere from $10 to $20 million in patching roads annually. Again, that's not planned. That's just the worst first, taking care of the potholes that coming out of winter. And then finally, just some of the other tools that we have out there. I've got them listed. We contract. One of our biggest tools is a 1-inch contract level course that we do. Generally, it runs about $50,000 to $60,000 a centerline mile. We talked about a price of $5,000 per mile, centerline mile earlier, and I kind of use that as a rule of thumb though at Missouri on our minor road system. 1-inch contract level course is going to buy us 10 years or more if we preserve it correctly. So 50,000 divided by 10 years, 5,000 a mile. We have about 28,000 miles in our minor road system. You apply 5,000 of that, you're just north of $100 million. That's about what our budget is to take care of it. So I kind of use the 5,000 mile as a rule of thumb when I'm looking at pavement preservation techniques. Is it going to buy us? Let's say it's 15,000 a centerline mile. Well, that better buy us 3 years, or else it's not worth it. Is it 5,000 centerline mile? Well, it better buy us at least 1 extra year on that route, or else it's not worth it. So that is a little bit of a rule of thumb, and I realize, you definitely can get burned with making kind of broad assumptions with that. And then we have some other stuff. Full depth reclamation, we do a little bit of that. We've done a little bit of that through the years, not a lot. We have done some composite thin lift mixes where essentially we do a scratch seal instead of a 1-inch. We replace it in some places with a scratch seal where your screed is basically scratching the surface, and you're getting maybe a 1/4 of an inch, or filling up the ruts is basically all you're doing. Following that up with a chip seal, we call it scratch and seal. We've done quite a bit of that in the last couple of years. That comes in around a little over 40,000 a lane mile, so we get a little bit of a upfront savings with that. We're watching it to see if we do get the 10 years out of it that we typically get out of a 1-inch CLC. But anyway, those are the remaining tools that we have, and that is Missouri MoDOT pavement preservation in a nutshell. Thank you.